Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the pre-council meeting for 11/14/2022 in the, for the city of
I
Joliet.
thought you were joking.
Mayor Odekirk presiding. He'll be a little late, so we're gonna go ahead and call the roll.
Odekirk will be here in a few minutes. Councilman Clement?
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Here.
Councilman Guerrero?
Here.
Councilman Hug?
Here.
Councilman Morris?
Here.
Councilman Mudrin?
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman? Here. Councilwoman Reardon?
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is the presentation of the city manager's proposed 2023 annual budget and discussion to set a public hearing date for proposed 2023 annual budget.
Well, I'd like to ask if the council, if everyone's had a chance to, or an opportunity to look at the budget and open the floor to discussions as some of the things you may like, you may not like, and look to some guidance from the council here this evening, if you have any issues you'd like to talk to about.
Jim.
Yes.
Yeah, I looked under roadways, and there was $100,000 set aside for downtown weed control and I think flowers and landscaping. I think everybody can agree, I'd like to see that expanded throughout the city. I mean, we drive through every intersection you see, we have weeds 3 foot high. I'd like to see if we can attack that and throw a little bit more funding that way. And I don't know if Greg wanted to chime in a little bit on the weed control.
Yeah, Councilman Clement brought this up. If we did want to do those things, I think the preference would be to do it with a contractor as opposed to staff in order to place this stronger pesticide license that should be more effective. Contractor that would work out.
Do you have any idea what that would look like, Greg, off the top of your head?
Cost-wise, as part of this, I would get some fairly quickly, but if Councilman Clement brought up.
Well, I think 50 or 100, but I was thinking it might be actually more than that.
Yeah, I guess it would depend on how many locations.
Right. I mean, so what do you?
I mean, do you have time to check into that maybe for tomorrow? I know years ago, we had contractors out there, walking down roads and intersections and spraying. I don't know what it would cost this day, but just try to beautify the city a little bit.
No, I think we're in agreement. It's just a question of scope and cost. So,
I'll try to do something for tomorrow.
okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you.
I also have a question for Greg. Ready? Don't go away. I feel like the number one complaint I get, and I don't know how it goes for all of you, but is the sidewalks thing. And I do see that we increased it a bit. My question to Greg is, if we had more money, would we be able to get it done, or do we have the time frame? Do we have the materials? I know I'm trying to have you look into a crystal ball, but do we think that next year would be a more productive year for trying to get more sidewalks accomplished if we could get some more funding for it?
I hope so. So this year, I think you all know we had the strike at the quarries, which limited the aggregate that was available to create concrete. And more recently, I don't think everybody's aware of this, but there's been a cement shortage, which is one of the items that include the concrete. So our sidewalk work has been pushed back. We still have a backlog of complaints, or petitions rather, of people who would like to get their sidewalk done. We could expand that program. A lot of it is voluntary, however, so sometimes we get people who have requested a petition and then see the price and they don't want to do it. So, if we have more money, we can do more work, certainly. And then hopefully next year, the environment will be a little bit better with construction. We don't have these unforeseen issues like the aggregate shortage and cement shortage.
Right. If I can just chime in on the cement shortage, I know that the barge traffic on the Mississippi River has gone. They're only able to load barges right now up to 7 feet inside. So the barges that there are able to get up the Mississippi River up through here for aggregate and various materials, is, normally they run like 8 barges at sideways, they can only do 2, and of that, they have 7 feet less, or significantly less materials inside of them. And they're concerned that, in December, there will not be any barge traffic at this point. So this is all impacting the supply chain. There's not necessarily, I think we're all in agreement here that we would love to do more construction work, but it's not even a question of cost, it's a question of accessibility of materials at this point. So we continue to work through those obstacles the best that we can to be able to provide, the citizens sidewalks here in Joliet. So.
One more follow-up, please. I think we've had this conversation before, but just to kind of reiterate, if the sidewalk heaving is caused by our trees, then we cover the cost of that portion of the sidewalk, is that correct? And it's other problems that the 50/50 program is designed for.
That's correct. If there's a parkway tree that's eating the sidewalk, the city covers that at 100% of the cost. If there are other issues, just standard deterioration, standard cracking, over time, then the residents are offered the 50/50 program. Sometimes you'll have both instances at the same location. In the older neighborhoods, a tree may have heaved part of the sidewalk and then some of it's standard deterioration. So the resident would, I'll call it crack, would have to pay for the tree damage, but would have to pay for other sidewalk if they wanted to at the same property owners.
Thank you.
Follow up to that, Greg. We've had internal discussions, but assuming that there wasn't a supply chain issue, how much does the 50/50 program hamper our ability to really repair sidewalks? Or, for example, if you have 3 or 4 neighbors in a row, 3 of them are willing to pay and the 4th one isn't. I know we've had high-level talks about doing away with that program. Is that something that you would consider or would consider making a recommendation on?
Yeah, I think Public Works would probably have to discuss that with legal. City has ordinances that states that the residents are responsible for standard deterioration of the walk. We do get complaints on deteriorated walk, and it might not be from the property owner. It might be somebody who just walks down the street, and we'll send out a notice to the property owner, and they say, well, we don't have the funds, and we don't want to participate in the program for whatever reason, so we would make it temporarily safe with asphalt wedges, which I think are not very popular with the citizens, that you all know. But when we're notified of a hazard, we have to take action, and that's kind of what we call a temporary fix. So if there was a way that the city were able to absorb all that cost, I think we could do it. It's just a matter of funding.
Right, and would we be able to repair more sidewalks quicker than what we're doing right now?
I think probably the more hazardous locations, I would say yeah, because instead of relying on property owner participation, if we knew it was in bad condition, we just don't do it. So it might take care of some of those more hazardous locations. As opposed, crack isn't necessarily hazardous, but it's unsightly, whereas some of these eaves or dips or whatever,
Thank you.
I think also, Mayor, and I know we discussed this briefly about using, we do get some CDBG funding that can be used in economically depressed areas to be able to do people who may not be able to even afford the 50/50 if they'd like to. And that's what these kind of funds would be for. So we'd be able to do a whole block in a row if it's badly deteriorated, et cetera. So it's something that we're looking at, trying to get as much done as we possibly can, as opposed to just, I think it's a good use of that funding source and stream.
Right.
Question for Greg again. Greg, do you have a separate line item in your budget for the repair of sidewalks that are our responsibility, or does that come out of the regular road fund?
There's a line item for sidewalk repair. It's rolled into one of our other accounts, but it's broken out as sidewalk repair. It doesn't differentiate between citizen request versus partway through, but there is a line item that's broken out, and I think practical services.
Matt?
Yes.
That was one of the two items I was gonna bring up, is I did want to see us bump. Last year, we put general fund, capital funds at 7 million, and with the, what turned out to be the motor fuel tax is almost 12 million. It's upwards, top end of 11 million. And I want to see us do that 7 million, if not 8 million. If you can crunch those numbers, Jim.
Right, I believe we are at the, well,
I thought we were at 6 3/4.
I think it was, we kept 6.5, and then, as I recall, last year, we asked for the additional 500,000 to be put towards sidewalks, as I recall.
Right, I didn't see that in the budget.
Jim, can you talk to that? I don't know.
Yeah, you're correct. Out of the capital budget, there's 6.5 million this year, and there was let me pull that from last year.
And I believe it was 500,000 for.
Yes, we did.
sidewalks. So that's how we had it structured this year as well.
Well, let's see if we can, like I said, the intent when I first started, pushing for this, and we all came together on it, was to try to get 7 million the first year, 8 million. We want to get to where we're at 12.4 million a year. I think if anybody's got questions, Greg would be better prepared to, I can answer them as a member of the committee. But we want, with the number of miles of streets and sidewalks we have, we should be heading towards a budget of 12.4 million every year. We're not going to get, like I said last year, we're not going to get to the 12.4 million last year, this year, or next. But I'd like us to go from the 7 to the 8 is my main request within the budget.
I think and I'm not saying no, we'll look at the numbers, certainly, Councilman, but I think it's going to be tough to add $1 million to the budget at this particular point.
Well, what I
So,
did look
not
at,
saying that.
Jim, was last year we added 38 brand new jobs in addition to filling 26. And so I don't know that we need all 13 of these new jobs. That's going to be over 50 new jobs in less than a year's time. A little over a year at the most. Maybe we should take a step back and commit that money next year to capital improvements and decide on some of those positions. Sorry about that, folks. And then decide on some of those positions. That's my take. That's my perspective. That's where we would find the million. And I think the residents will get a lot more out of the extra million for streets and sidewalks than they would out of some of these additional positions this year that are proposed. We can hold off on those if that would be the will of the council. We just added 38. We just added a good chunk last year, and I don't think they're all even filled yet from last year. And that certainly would make room in the budget. But that's the two main things that I brought up. We did get good news at the Public Service Committee today. The sidewalks are ahead of being completed this year of the streets, because as Greg had said, we had the strike, which was roughly 2 months long. And then, of course, we have the powder, the concrete itself is in shortage. I'm sure the big state job has something to do with exacerbating that. I'm sure they get first dibs on some of these items. But the sidewalks, and there's one segment of the 3 areas of sidewalks that looks like it's almost 80% will be finished this year. Just a reminder to folks watching, whatever we don't finish on the streets or the sidewalks will be finished, weather permitting, and will not affect what we're discussing to do again on top of that next year, because we got to make this a yearly routine.
Weather and material permitting, yes.
Right. So if you could look at that about adding the extra million, I would appreciate that.
Sure.
Staying with sidewalks, and in the budget is 300,000, which is less than half of what this year's budget is at 750. I think that number needs to come back up, regardless of where we're at with cement or stone. Going ahead, we have many people still on that list that will still be on the list at the end of the year.
Yes.
Mr. Gadati, we talked about this before. I noticed that the library is they want a 2% tax levy increase. And then I looked at the salaries, and I don't have the number in front of me, Mr. Gadati. What was it, $2.1 million in salaries? Is that what we saw in the budget? I don't have the exact number in front of me. Between the two, Black Road and...
Almost 2.4 million.
Almost 2.4 million,
Right,
excuse
and then
me.
$1 million in park.
Okay, and you just got a $6.5 million bond, yet you want a 2% tax levy, and your employees are making almost $2.4 million, or they are. So I would like a total printout of all the salaries, what the positions are, and what everyone is making. Because I think that's a bit ridiculous. That's what I'd like to see checked. And then also, Greg, across those other lines, you know, our big intersections where all the state roads are, I've talked and everybody's talked, we're blue in the face with IDOT about the garbage and the weeds along there, and there's nothing that we can do without their permission. Is there some other route we can approach, do you know of?
No, anything we do there does, I think they're require their permission. I think garbage removal is, you know, if that's something.
Because I know that's a big thing with the neighborhood organizations, they're all complaining about, and this has been going on for years, all the gateways into the city downtown and all over the city. You know, 55 and 80 and down Route 30, it's just, those intersections are just trashed.
I think we could, something as simple as garbage, we could effective with to address those issues. If we're trying to do more physical changes to those, absolutely.
On a couple of my road trips, I've noticed that there are places that have this adopt a highway or intersection, and businesses do it, and they get their little signs along the roadway. So is there some type of program we could look into that, maybe have some businesses adopt intersection if it's IDOT approved? I mean, I don't know, I'm trying to think of different things because our intersections are a mess.
We could certainly look into that. You know, we haven't done that in the past, so I don't know the mechanics of it.
Okay, all right, thank you. That's all, that was my biggest concern, but, Mr. Mayor, was the library.
Jim, I've had, switching gears a little bit, I've had conversations with people from the Rialto, and specifically what the plan is moving forward, and I was encouraged by what I heard. I think they should come and address the council at some point prior to passing the budget. So I have some questions for them too, but I think what was presented to me in private is something I'd like to share with the public. If you could invite them in.
Sure. Would you like me to come tomorrow, or is that too soon, if they're available?
We're not voting tomorrow.
No.
So prior to the vote.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Along those lines, since we're doing that, can we also have the representatives of the museum come in, since we give them a large chunk as well? I will ultimately, not letting the cat out of the bag here, we'll ask for line item votes on those issues when it comes time to vote, but I have some questions I'd like to ask the museum as well, museum/prison.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there anything else? If not, can we, did you want to schedule this? Well, tomorrow we'll come back and I'll see what we have to, I'll update you on this information if that's acceptable to the council, give you some of these answers that you asked for, and then we can maybe schedule the budget for a vote if you guys are amenable to that, the council's amenable to that.
Yeah, we can address it again tomorrow.
Okay, very good. Is there any other questions or anything like that before we get on with that?
Just in legal, Sabrina, I'm going to refer to you. We don't have on the agenda to set the hearing date, so it's on tonight's agenda. Do we want to still have the discussions tomorrow, but set the hearing date this evening?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
Is there a recommendation from council on when to set the hearing date for the budget?
First meeting in December?
Sure.
Pre-council.
If it's a public hearing, should it be at the council meeting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be December 6th at 6:30. Is there a consensus to move forward with the public hearing for 6:30 on December 6th?
I'll move.
Second,
You all vote or?
Vote, yeah, it's been motion seconded to set a public hearing date for the 2023 annual budget for December 6th at 6:30 PM. Councilman Clement?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin? Aye. Councilman Guerrero?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Just to be, for clarification, is that when you'd like to have the museum and Rialto staff here at that date, on December 6th?
Either that or the day before to address the council.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
clarify, actually, I like the idea of the day before. Can we do it the day before?
December 5th?
Yeah, that's pre-council, that's a good idea, having the
Can
day
ask them to
before.
come? Sure.
Okay, so next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. Is there anyone present that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening? Seeing none, we'll have the city manager review the remainder of the items.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Agenda item 553-22, which is, through 557-22, all deal with the regular payroll. The first one through July 15th to the 28th, which is $3,760,000, $771.32. The next agenda item, which is regular payroll, July 29th through the August 11th, is $3,691,910.61. The next item, which is regular payroll for August 12th through the 25th, is $3,777,702.26. Next payroll item, August 26th through September 8th, $3,767,108.65. And finally, for the payroll for September 9th through the 22nd, $3,822,431.39. Agenda item 558-22, which is a purchase of one Ford Escape vehicle for the Department of Public Utilities from Ron Trapelli Ford in the amount of $29,525.24. Agenda item is next agenda item is 559-22, purchase of one Ford Explorer for the EMA director position from Ron Trapelli Ford in the amount of $45,000. Later on, as we go through this agenda, there will be a ordinance, so just so you're aware, it's dealing with the same vehicle, and that's a budget amendment for us to be able to buy that. Just so you're aware when we get to that part. Agenda item 560-22, change order one for the East Side Water Waste Treatment Plant, South Grit Chamber Building Replacement Project to C&T Construction in the amount of $38,395.75. Agenda item 561-22, change order number 3 in the amount of minus $10.41 and payment estimate 11 and final in the amount of $173,137.42 for the lead service line replacement phase 2C to Austin Tyler Construction Incorporated. Agenda item 562-22, amendment number 1 for the phase 1 engineering services for the Theodore Street Bridge over Rock Run Creek Improvement Project to Ciorba Group in the amount of $34,594.66. Agenda item 563-22, amendment number 1 to the construction, testing, and soil boring services for the 2023 Water System Rehabilitation Program to Seco Consultants Incorporated in the amount of $36,780. Next agenda item is 565-22, a public hearing regarding the ordinance approving a vacation of a 20 by 100 foot portion of a public alley south of Grass Street. This is to be tabled. Next item is 567-22, an ordinance approving a special use permit to allow trucking facility that includes long-term storage container and chassis storage and stacking not to exceed 5 high, located at 3350 Shanahan Road.
Mayor,
Yes.
I have a problem stacking these things 5 high, because I know we had to deal with Centerpoint years ago that they couldn't stack more than 3. So if we let this go at 5, then they're gonna wanna be stacking at 5 as well. And if these are long-term storage places, these are gonna be 5 large cargo containers on top of one another, just deteriorating. So I think we should stick with our original 3 stack and not go to 5.
I believe that the petitioner is here. Would you like to address this briefly?
Good evening, Council. I'm Rosenberger. On behalf of applicant. So I had a chance to talk to Councilwoman before the meeting. I'm not aware that the city has limited to 3. I certainly respect that if that's your position. On this particular facility, it was previously granted by this board, council, a truck terminal. It's right there. Ketone Acquisitions developed a 260 acres and actually donated the land for the future bridge when 5 years when we came and talked to the mayor and staff. That was from day one. It was zoned I2. Well, it's been zoned I2 for a long time, but it's quite industrial in the right spot. In particular, in this case, the building in front of it is 48 feet high. Containers are 8.5 feet, so 5 would be 44 feet. I was there today from Route 6. You're well below grade. You absolutely would not see another container. So there's containers, and the other is chassis. And the truck chassis are about half of what a container would be. I think you've seen them. Are they ugly? Yeah, they're ugly when they stack them on top. I'm not going to lie. But we certainly would request that those be able to be stacked 5 high. It's in the right spot so that it's not traveling around to different spots in Joliet. But aesthetically, you absolutely won't see them.
If you go down Route 6 over by Maple Road, they're also stacked to 3, and that's it. So that was what we did back before.
Yeah, and Councilman, I completely respect your position. You have to, but just for this site aesthetically, just so you know, I went to the east and to the west. You won't see them. So I respect what you're saying. I'm not arguing with you at all.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
If a motion was made tomorrow to modify that, would that be a deal breaker, or would we be able to move forward?
To add a condition of 3?
I'm just anticipating.
Look, this use is going to be adjunct to the terminal facility. There's almost no likelihood it's just going to be stacked with containers sitting there. I would love an approval. If the city's position is they only want 3, then that's what I have to live with.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
So the other side of that, Mayor, okay, if we allow them to do that, then you've got Centerpoint's gonna wanna come back, and the ones over there on Route 6 and Maple Road are gonna wanna do 5. And that's just gonna wreck everything from aesthetic point of view, because those are very visible, especially the ones down by Centerpoint where the Autobahn is.
Right.
Okay. All right, moving on to agenda item 568-22, an ordinance approving special use permit to allow banquet hall of B3 general business use in an I2 general industrial zoning district located at 971 Collins Street. This building has been vacant for about 10 years, so the thought is that this would be a good use for this particular piece of property, bringing it back on the tax rolls.
Jim?
Yes, sir.
Can we have the chief pull calls for service there for the last couple of years for tomorrow?
Sure. Chief. Okay. Next is agenda item 569-22, an ordinance amending the 2022 annual budget for the purchase of a Ford Explorer for the EMA director position. That's what I was talking about earlier. Agenda item 570-22, ordinance associated with the automotive maintenance and repair use at 356 North Scott Street. This is a special use. Agenda item 571-22, an ordinance approving special use permit to allow trucking facility that includes long-term container chassis storage not to exceed 5 high and trailing part at 58050 South Young Road.
Again, Mayor, 3, not 5.
Okay. Next is a resolution, which is agenda item 573-22, to declare surplus real estate for sale. This is something we've been trying to get on the books here to be able to divest ourselves of some of the non-performing properties we have here in Joliet. And these are not giveaways, but some of these properties, we need to quit accumulating them and start getting them back on the tax rolls. And this provides us a mechanism to be able to do that in a relatively clean fashion. Agenda item 574-22, a resolution appropriating funds for Phase 1 engineering services to the Theodore Bridge over Rock Run Creek Improvement Project in the amount of $34,594.66. Next is the agenda item of 575-22, a resolution authorizing the execution of a lease agreement between the City of Joliet and Little County. And that concludes the agenda items. I'd like to say, on behalf of, for my city manager comments, I'm very glad that we had a discussion today, especially about agenda items. I like the fact that this is the time and the place to do this stuff, so we can get answers for folks, as opposed to on Tuesday, when we're struggling to come to a conclusion, so we can resolve some of these issues in a timely fashion, and be able to provide people with a vote, and provide you with the best information possible to make your vote. So I sincerely appreciate the dialogue and feedback today. So with that concludes my comments.
Next is public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening? Seeing none, there is a request for closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition, or conveyance pending or threat litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Guerrero.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Clement.
Aye.
Motion carried.